Welcome to Dependence and Independence, the podcast where we have honest conversations about military life, personal growth, and overall finding your identity beyond the attached military title. I'm your host, Stephanie, and for those who don't know, I started off my journey in the military by enlisting in the Marine Corps. During my time serving, I saw how vital the role of military spouses were to the enlisted personnel. For instance, at age 19, I found myself in Okinawa, Japan, with no funds to go home during the holidays. Many spouses of my chain of command opened their homes to us who had nowhere to go during Thanksgiving and even Christmas. Another occasion where I found myself grateful to a military spouse was when I was sent to Australia. During that time, I had to figure out a way to get around, but due to the change of driving regulations, I had to take cabs. Some of the spouses kindly offered to drive me around to run my errands for each weekend. They're incredibly helpful, but unfortunately, their role is often overlooked. From them using their free time to volunteer for on base events, to providing comforting dinners on holidays to their spouse's coworkers, or to even staying up till 1 a.m. to pick up the enlisted from the airport. Countless times, they often pour their lives into the military world. That often trying to handle everything can begin to feel overwhelming. As a military spouse myself, I know how challenging it can be to navigate that constant change. Building a sense of belonging and pursuing your goal while supporting your family can feel intense. My goal with this podcast is to create a space where military spouses and dependents can find encouragement, practical advice, and to be used as a reminder that you're not alone in your journey. Now, for those who are dipping their toes in the military world, here's a quick guide of some good jargon. Dependents are what they call us military spouses. PCS stands for Permanent Change of Station, which is generally where you'll be sent to live for a specific amount of time. Recruiting is self-explanatory, but it is notorious for derailing families and relationships. This is due to the extreme pressure it has and immense consequences it creates for those who don't perform to the standard of the unit they're attached to. Units are teams or companies that the enlisted member is assigned to and a part of. Now, today's episode is one that I think that many military spouses can connect with. I'm joined by Megan Slayton. She's a Marine Corps spouse, a mom of 3, a business owner, a college student, and a published author. I know, right? Throughout her military spouse journey, Megan has experienced deployments, recruiting duty, frequent moves, and the challenges that come with rebuilding the community time and time again. In our conversations, Megan shares the realities of the military spouse life, the moments that are difficult, isolating, and overwhelming, but also the lessons and the resilience and support systems that helped her through this. If you're new to the military world, or you've ever felt alone after PCS, struggled to find your place in a new community, or wondered how other spouses manage it all, this episode is for you. So, grab your coffee, tea, water, whatever your poison is, settle in and join us for a real and honest conversation about military life, the community, and the strength it takes to keep moving forward. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Stephanie, and today we have Megan with us. Megan, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Slayton. I am a mom of 3. I'm a Marine Corps spouse, a home bakery owner, college student, and published author.
Yeah, so as you guys can hear, she's a very seasoned military spouse, and she's been able to survive it and still accomplish her goals. So we want to really speak on the whole, I guess, popular phrase, you know what you signed up for. Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
a very popular one that is pretty triggering for us because that's not very fair for us, right? Like you can't plan your whole life and then just say, okay, I know exactly what I'm getting into. No, you don't. We want
Mm.
to start from the beginning. So, what was the biggest adjustment when becoming a military spouse for you, Megan?
It really kind of threw me for a loop. Even though I was 10 hours away, it was a drive I could make in a day if I really wanted to. That distance and being like, I am for real on my own
Hmm.
and didn't have that community and had to build from scratch really kind of was overwhelming because we'd already had our daughter. I was pregnant with our second child.
Hmm.
Um, and then after we'd had our son, just having like my family wasn't there like they were when our daughter was born. So I didn't have my grandmother making a casserole to bring and put in the fridge. I didn't have my mom to come and sit with my baby while I took a nap. I had my husband and my two kids and he was always at work. So just kind of learning to be, I don't want to say that I wasn't self-reliant to begin with because I've always been independent, but just
Hmm.
really heavy on the I have to make a community because I no longer have what I had. I think that was my
Yeah.
biggest struggle at first. And
Yeah,
you
I
don't
think that
really
yeah.
realize that at first.
Yeah, no, I get you where you're coming from because it feels like you're finally like alone. I know that usually like, oh, I'm not living with my parents, right? But then they're still there. They're still like they'll come in real quick, but once you move and once that PCS happens, it's really rough for us. It's kind of like a reality hit, right? I
It
remember,
is.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And it was all at once because when we had our daughter, got pregnant with our second kiddo, he went on a deployment. I had stayed back in our hometown. And when he came home, we moved up to North Carolina. And so it was such a fast turnaround. He came home, I moved up, I was like 7 months pregnant, and then we had our son like 2 months later. So I just felt like there was so much new happening and I didn't even give myself like the time I thought I would need to adjust because everything just kept happening. It was just like constant. And not even 2, 3 months after our son was born, my husband got orders to go to Oahu for Hawaii. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm already struggling being 10 hours away. Now I'm gonna go into the middle of the Pacific Ocean." It was just continuous. So I probably didn't
Yeah.
get settled until we made it to, Kaneohe Bay.
Oh,
And that I
wow.
mean, that was June of 2018. And even then, it probably took me like a solid year to really find like a community. So, like, my
Hmm.
first 2 years roughly of being a military spouse was almost like survival mode.
Yeah.
So, again, I knew what I signed up for because, like, he's gonna leave, he's gonna train, he's gonna deploy. But the training pace over at Kaneohe Bay was so fast and intense. He was always gone. We had moved to the island 4 or 5 weeks later, he was out in 29 Palms. He
Hmm.
was gone for 2 months, and I had 2 kids, and I was just like, "I don't even know anybody." Like, what is happening? He came back, and then he deployed for 6 months, and I was like, "This is insane." It took so long to finally find my community, um, that it really did feel like almost like a survival mode for the first couple years.
Yeah, I think that's something we can all relate to too. Because I know I've had those times that, and then your family tells you self-care, right? You have to take care of yourself if you want to take care of others, like, your
Yeah.
kids. But it's not that easy. It's
No,
not
yeah.
that easy. You have to, yeah. Priority is important. And how you mentioned, you're like, oh my gosh, I have these babies. Like they're the priority right now. So screw, yeah, everything is survival mode for us specifically. How do you think
Mhm.
that impacted your kids, would you say? Or like how did it impact, I guess, your husband or your relationship during that time frame?
In that survival mode,
Mm-hmm.
gone so much that I don't even really think he noticed just how badly I was struggling. Um, and it felt constant. After our son was born, I ended up struggling really bad with postpartum depression, and I kind of kept it to myself because I didn't want people to worry.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got to the point where I could no longer really kind of keep it to myself because I started getting concerned about my own, like I needed to get somebody to help. Um, so I had to come to my husband and say, "Okay, I know you're day to day is hard. I know what you're going through is kind of difficult here as well, but like this is where I'm at and I'm not doing well. I need something." And he was great and he was able to kind of help give me that support that I needed. I did have family come up and kind of help. We went home for Christmas that year, so I was able to get that adjusted. Once we moved, um my husband and I found out we were pregnant, and when he was gone on that training, I lost that baby. So I ended up finding some sort of a community in the unit. Wives had found out that, we had lost the baby and my husband was gone. So they kind of showed up with those casseroles and, hey, I'll take your daughter to school because she was in kindergarten at the time. Um, so I started finding a community slowly. And
Yeah.
I think as I was able to pull myself out of survival mode, he was more confident in his ability to go train and deploy and know that we were okay. Um, so I guess the way it suffered in the first few years or couple of years during that like survival mode is that he was more focused almost at what was happening at home because he was concerned about me, obviously, 'cause, like I'm his wife and I care for the kids. So if I'm not okay, like are they okay? What can he do? But he's gone. So now that I have that community, I have that like I really can do this. I've pulled myself out of some crazy, places. I've done some hard things. He's more confident that, like this upcoming deployment for a year, it's going to be hard, it's going to suck, but he knows that I can handle it. He knows that the kids will be okay, everything will be under control. So I think that's kind of where that contrast is.
For those that are currently going through that experience or have, or maybe in the future they become, I guess, they find themselves there, what would you say besides speaking up with your spouse? How do you go about like getting that community besides just telling your spouse? Because was your spouse the one that related that to the other spouses that were helpful with you, or was that some other resources?
So when we moved over to Kaneohe Bay, I immediately got involved because I was like, I want to meet spouses that are in the same thing. Like, I want artillery spouses. It doesn't have to be, but like, I want somebody that, like, if they're in the thick of it and we have our husbands deployed together, like, we are in it together, we can rely on each other. Like, that's the community I was trying to build because I knew he was going to be leaving soon after we moved there.
Yeah.
Um, and so when we found out we were pregnant, we'd kind of just mentioned because he was going to be gone and the baby might be born while he was deployed. So it was kind of like a preemptive, like, hey, we just found out we're pregnant, not sure on all the ins and outs yet. I did not mention to anybody that we had lost the baby, but my husband had mentioned it to somebody. And then it kind of just went up the chain of command and it was relayed back to spouses over on the island with me. And then they kind of just showed up. So I guess my biggest thing outside of like having your spouse as a support system, finding volunteer opportunities. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the unit because not every unit is the best. We've been fortunate.
Mhm.
Most of our units have been really family oriented. They truly care about the Marines. I don't have complaints. We've been blessed, but I know from other spouses' experiences there's not always those opportunities. But getting involved in links, getting involved if you have a church, they have so many different activities on base. Finding just a community that is still military affiliated, so you have those connections, you have those same common understandings of each other, and then growing from there. Because when we were on recruiting duty, it was crazy to think that my next door neighbor that we made friends with, when I said, "Hey, can I put you down as emergency contact for my kids because our kids go to the same school?" And she was like, "I mean, yes, but you don't really know me." I was like, "I know, but if I did that to a military, if you and I were talking, we were brand new neighbors, it's like, hey, I got you, you got me, trade. We've known each other for
Yeah.
5 minutes, but we're each other's emergency contacts because we just get each other."
Mhm.
So just finding people in the same mindset, the same lifestyle, just however you can do that. That's my biggest piece of advice is just put yourself out there. Even if you end up with two really good people in your corner, that still is a community that you can rely on. It's better than being alone.
That is great advice because a lot of us, especially when you're new, we don't realize how much that benefits us in the future. So thank you
Mhm.
for sharing that.
Of
Um,
course.
I know you mentioned recruiting. Let's touch on that a little bit because that is something that is pretty hard on a lot of families that new families don't realize is they think it's just, oh, another duty station. But then when you go about it, it really puts your relationship in quite a test. How was your journey and what lessons did it teach you?
Everybody said when we found out we were going recruiting, it was gonna be the worst duty. Same with if you get like DI, like it's the worst. You guys are gonna struggle, and like that's where marriages end. And I'm like, what are we even getting into? Like, oh, you knew what you signed up for, right? No, sure
Yeah.
didn't know that was coming our way. 3 years of that. But to be honest, I know I'm probably like the 1%. I loved recruiting duty. My
That's
husband did
interesting.
my husband did too. So the stress is there. I'm not even gonna lie, like it's stressful. You've got numbers to meet, you have things to do. But his office was 15 minutes from our house. So I could pop in with breakfast or lunch or dinner or all three if he was working all day. He didn't miss the holidays, he didn't miss the birthdays. I love recruiting, and our marriage got stronger on recruiting duty. Where we are now is not where we were when we started recruiting duty. We talked, like we would share stuff, obviously, because I came to him saying, I need help. Um, but the level of like where our communication is now, like how on the same page we are, we thought we had it before, like we've got it now. Like you can make it through recruiting duty just fine. It's a mindset and perspective shift that you have to have because your experience is going to be different than everybody else's. It's not always what you make of it, right? Because there's some
Mhm.
curveballs that can be thrown your way no matter what duty you're given. But as long as you two are on the same page and you realize it's the two of you against everything else, that's where you're going to make it. If you guys start going against each other, the problem will eat you both.
Yeah, and I like how you put that that it's you two against everyone because oftentimes that's where it does go wrong because I kind of had a similar experience like you. I don't love it, however, I did it's not
No,
my favorite.
it was
But
it was
yeah, but
manageable. I loved that we
mhm.
could see him every day. Granted, he comes home every day now, but like he leaves at 6 in the morning and he's home by like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, what is
Oh.
this? Like, I didn't miss this part.
Okay, so before we wrap today's episode, I want to take a moment to reflect on some of the biggest takeaways from Megan's story. One thing that really stood out and I think we should highlight is that no matter how much you think you've prepared for military life, there are always challenges that you can't predict. Whether it's a PCS, a deployment, finding yourself away from family, or simply trying to navigate a new season of a new life, it's okay to admit that it is hard. We also talked about the importance of community. Sometimes all it takes is one or two people in your corner to remind you that you're not doing this alone. And as Megan shared, asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's often the first step toward finding the support that you need. And maybe my favorite takeaway from today's conversation is this: it's not you versus your spouse, it's both of you versus that challenge. Keeping this perspective can make all the difference during difficult seasons of military life. But Megan's story doesn't stop here. In our next episode, we'll dive into how she built a successful home bakery through multiple PCS moves, how she pursued her higher education as a military spouse, how she became a published author, how she balanced motherhood and business ownership, and her personal goals along the way. If you've ever wondered whether it's possible to keep pursuing your dreams while supporting the military lifestyle, you won't want to miss this. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. What topics can you relate to? What's your opinion on you knew what you signed up for? And how much impact did joining this world have on you? And please share. It helps more military spouses and military families find these conversations, and it reminds us that we're not alone in this journey. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.